archives relating to the Roman Empire's army contain references to women who were sent to legionary camps. They were called camp followers. Many of them were prisoners of war. The documents emphasize that they had to undergo regular checkups by camp doctors. The examination included checking the vagina for cleanliness, sometimes a rough examination of the uterus, as well as cauterizing ulcers and incisions on the labia. Roman doctors left records of the use of primitive instruments, bronze hooks, stone knives, and forceps. The goal was to keep women fit for the army. The female body became a resource. Some girls died from infections after rough procedures, while others had their vaginas sewn up to preserve them for special ceremonies. Doctors considered the clitoris to be a superfluous organ of lust and recommended removing it from female captives to reduce their passion. In the Treatise on Female Diseases, by Sewn's 3rd century physician, it is mentioned, if a woman is prone to fornication, the protrusion above the pubis, called the clitoris, should be removed in order to extinguish the flame. Medieval chronicles reinforce this cruelty. During the Crusades, military brothels accompanied the armies. Girls from conquered lands ended up there as trophies. The chronicles' letters mentioned that the captives were examined in public. A priest checked the cleanliness of the vagina, and a doctor recorded the presence of diseases. If infertility was suspected, the uterus could be opened or the perineum cauterized. In the 11th century, the chronicles of Antioch mention a ritual in which prisoners had their vaginal openings sewn shut, not for purity, but as a form of mockery and a symbol of a conquered people. The chronicle noted women could not urinate without pain, and many died of gangrene. In the Roman Empire, concubines were selected for the harem. For the purity of the race, some girls had their genitals mutilated. The clitoris was removed with primitive knives, often without anesthesia. Medical records from that time note bloodletting for complications, vinegar rinses, and dressing bandages. Inflammation of the uterus, necrosis of the labia, and fever were often recorded. Armies in the late Middle Ages already used brothels as an official structure. Royal decrees in France and Spain required the maintenance of houses for soldiers. Women were brought there from villages. Medical examinations were mandatory. They consisted of a doctor being forced to examine the vagina of each girl in front of witnesses. There were cases when, to intimidate one captive, the labia were cut, while the clitoris was cauterized so that others would not resist. Official medicine at the time justified such actions. Doctors wrote that cauterization of the perineum and incision of the vagina expelled disease and lust. The church claimed that this served the cause of discipline. But in the testimonies of servants and the women themselves, which have come down to us in the form of written notes, a different voice is heard. They kept us in the basement. Every morning they checked our vaginas and forced us to spread our legs in front of strangers. Once, a girl's labia swelled up. She screamed, and the doctor said he would burn it so she wouldn't die. She didn't survive. Thus, from antiquity to the late Middle Ages, the female body in the context of war and the army became not only an object of exploitation, but also a field for barbaric procedures. Doctors and priests legalized mutilating practices, including sewing up the vagina, removing the clitoris, cutting the perineum, and cauterizing the uterus. All this was presented as protecting honor, restraining lust, or medical necessity, but in reality it meant abuse and death. By the 18th century, military brothels were no longer a hidden practice. They became part of the official structure of the army. The archives of the French and British armies contain decrees stipulating that every large garrison or military camp was to maintain houses for soldiers. The purpose was stated bluntly: to maintain discipline and prevent disease. The women placed there were not allowed to leave the premises. In France, military doctors kept records of the names, ages, and health status of each girl. Regular examinations consisted of humiliating procedures, checking the vagina for discharge, palpating the uterus through the clitoris and labia under a lamp. If signs of disease were found, they were cauterized with a hot iron, or the perineum was wiped with acid solutions. The doctor's reports stated, burning pain is necessary because it cleanses the body of rot. In the British Army in India, there were official camp brothels. Women were brought there from villages, often by force. They were registered and given numbers to wear around their necks. Before being allowed to see the soldiers, they underwent a fitness examination. Their vaginas were opened with rough metal instruments so that the doctor could see the internal tissues. If ulcers were found in the labia, they were cut out with a knife. The girls screamed and lost consciousness, but the procedure was called prevention. Colonial practices were even harsher. In Africa, French and Belgian soldiers set up rest houses where prisoners could have their vaginas sewn shut for demonstrative purposes. It was believed that a sealed woman would remain fit for longer. Some reports contain the following lines. Women's vaginas were closed with threads made from human intestines, and the key to their duties was kept by a sergeant. When they complained of pain, bloodletting and tar ointment were used. In 19th century Russia, state-run military brothels had their own system. Doctors held a sanitary day every week. The girls were lined up naked and forced to spread their legs. The doctor examined their perineum, checked their vagina, and could palpate their uterus. At the slightest sign of inflammation, cauterization was performed. Clitoris removal was rare, but there are descriptions. To stop hysterical convulsions and lustful inclinations, the clitoris was cut off with scissors. Women's memories of such examinations are rarely preserved, but there are records from maids and observers. In a diary of one of them, we read, "They screamed when the doctor inserted a metal instrument. One of them tore her perineum, blood flowed, and she was taken to the infirmary. She returned a week later, already dead." The practices in the armies that participated in colonial wars were particularly cruel. There, women were mutilated not only for medical reasons, but also for intimidation. Reports by British officers mentioned that female prisoners had their clitorises cut out, or their labia sewn shut. This was presented as an example of discipline for others. Doctors recorded the consequences: vaginal inflammation, tissue necrosis, blood poisoning. Treatment was primitive: washing with vinegar, applying salted rags, bloodletting at high temperatures. Dozens of girls died. But in military records, these deaths were simply noted as written off as unfit. The political context of the 18th and 19th centuries is also important. Military brothels became a propaganda tool. Soldiers were told that these women were a gift from the empire, which meant that their bodies belonged to the army. In practice, this turned into a system of slavery. 19th century medical reports were sometimes written with cynicism, and one of them will read, "After the removal of the clitoris in 3 women, the hysterical fits ceased. However, one died of uterine inflammation, the rest were found fit for service." At the end of the 19th century, a debate began in Europe about regulating prostitution, but the military insisted that without brothels, discipline would collapse. Therefore, the practice continued. Women remained known as victims of the system. Their vaginas were examined and mutilated for the sake of the army, and their uteruses were declared property of the state. Reports from the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 describe one case. The captives were brought to the camp. Each was forced to lie down on a table where a doctor examined her perineum and cauterized any sores with a hot iron. One of them had blackened pubic tissue and died 2 days later. The rest were distributed around the barracks. This systematization, official record books, regular examinations of the vagina and perineum, mutilating operations on the clitoris and uterus, all this became part of normal routine. The female body finally ceased to be personal. It became part of military logistics. By the beginning of the 20th century, Military brothels were no longer a semi-legal practice and had become official structures enshrined in the statutes of many armies. World War I was the first conflict where the style of the system was recorded in thousands of documents. In the French and German armies, special rest homes were set up for soldiers near the front lines. Women were brought to barracks located in close proximity to the barracks. Medical control became mandatory and strict. Every week, an examination was carried out. Doctors checked the vagina for discharge, examined the labia and clitoris, and took swabs. Women with signs of disease could have their ulcers cauterized or be forcibly treated in the field. Bed lighting was prescribed for high temperatures. German documents record. Every woman was required to undergo a vaginal examination at least once a week. If syphilis or inflammation of the uterus is detected, she must be immediately isolated and treated. Otherwise, she is subject to exclusion from the list. Exclusion meant actual death. Women were taken outside the camp and abandoned. The Russian army practiced so-called state houses at garrisons. There, doctors also examined women weekly. The examination was humiliating. Women were forced to lie down on wooden tables, spread their legs, and the doctor roughly examined the vagina and peered around with a metal instrument. At the slightest sign of hysteria, clitoridectomy was recommended as a supposed therapeutic measure. Medical reports mention, after the removal of the clitoris, the patient became calmer, although she soon died of inflammation. But the most systematic and widespread practice occurred during World War II. In the occupied territories of Europe and Asia, the German and Japanese troops created a network of camp brothels. Their medical documents contain the definition brothel, a brothel for servicing soldiers, controlled by the military police and sanitary services. Thousands of women were held there, most of whom had been forcibly taken away. Medical journals recorded each one: name, age, condition of the uterus and vagina. The examination was rigorous. Women were forced to undress and lie down on a table. Their vaginas were opened with a metal mirror and checked for ulcers and inflammation. If a disease was suspected, the labia were cauterized with acid. If the inflammation did not go away, the vagina was partially sutured to limit contact. In some cases, the clitoris was removed to reduce arousal. All of this was documented as medical measures. In the Japanese army, the practice took on an even more cynical form. So-called comfort women were brought in from Korea, China, and Indonesia. They became virtual slaves. The women were subjected to daily examinations. Doctors wrote down, vagina clean, no clinical signs of syphilis. At the slightest suspicion, they used harsh treatment, injecting solutions into the uterus, cauterizing the perineum, and cutting the labia. In the memoirs of some of the women who survived, we find the words, every week they lined us up, examined our vaginas, and touched our uteruses. If they found anything, they cauterized it. We lost consciousness from the pain. Some had their clitorises cut off. Others had their vaginas sewn up. Many died, but the officers said it was for the sake of the purity of the army. Wehrmacht medical reports confirmed that mortality among women in camp brothels was high. The causes were blood poisoning, inflammation of the uterus, and damage to the vagina. Doctors recorded dryly, removed due to unsuitability. Exhibitions were also held in German camps. A woman with a disease could be brought out in front of others, and her genital ulcers cauterized in front of everyone so that the others could see the punishment. In some camps in the East, prisoners' vaginas were sewn shut with thread, and the key was handed over to the commandant. This became a symbol of complete control. Guards strictly restricted access to the building. If a woman was unable to move after the procedure, she was isolated in a separate room. Bodies were often taken out at night. Embalming was rare. More often, the corpses were burned. After the war, these practices were revealed in court proceedings. At the Tokyo Tribunal, and in a number of European courts, women's testimonies were heard. They spoke of medical procedures that turned into torture, vaginal examinations, cauterization of the clitoris, incisions in the perineum, and suturing of the uterus. The judges recorded this as war crimes. However, many documents were destroyed. Some were preserved only in the form of copies of medical journals and the testimonies of survivors. They described in dry language: woman, age 19, vagina sewn up, condition serious. Other entries: clitoris removed, followed by infection. These lines sound like a chronicle of systematic abuse. The 20th century showed that all brothels were no longer a shadow practice. They became an official institution where women's bodies, vaginas, clitorises, uteruses, labia, perineums were subjected to constant humiliation, mutilating procedures, and medical violence under the guise of prevention and control. After World War II, the bodies and fates of thousands of women were in a state that doctors called irreversible exhaustion. Women who had survived military brothels came to hospitals with inflammation of the uterus, damage to the vagina and perineum, completely removed clitoris, or sewn labia. Medical reports noted chronic pain, inability to urinate without agony, and infertility. But even these dry lines did not convey the main thing: the trauma that remained for life. In Japan's comfort women camps, many were effectively disabled for life. Doctors recorded complete destruction of vaginal tissue, uterine prolapse, and perineal tears. The women were unable to give birth and suffered from constant infections. The archives contain the case of a 20-year-old girl from Korea. A vagina is completely sewn shut, and the opening for urine is extremely narrow. Repeated inflammation led to kidney damage. Death occurred 3 months after liberation. The situation was similar in the Wehrmacht camps. The 1945 Red Cross reports state, many women cannot move without pain. Some have had their clitoris removed. Others have severe scarring in the labia area. There is blood and mucus urinating. Most are extremely emaciated. These reports became evidence in the trials. The Tokyo Tribunal and the Nuremberg trials introduced the concept of sexual slavery as a war crime for the first time. Witnesses spoke of examinations and treatment that were not treatment but abuse. A woman from China said, "They forced us to lie down on the table. The doctor examined our vaginas, took our labia in his hands, and looked at our uteruses. If he found anything, he cauterized it with iron. One girl had her clitoris cut off. She died the next day." The judges recorded these testimonies, but many of the documents subsequently disappeared. In some countries, the subject was declared shameful and hushed up for decades. It was only at the end of the 20th century that the archives began to be opened, and the victims began to speak out publicly. The psychological consequences were no less terrible. The diaries of survivors contain entries such as, "I no longer feel my body. My vagina has become alien to me. I have no clitoris, and I cannot be a woman. I am alive, but this is not life." Psychiatrists recorded severe forms of depression, suicidal thoughts, and hysterical fits. In societies from which the women were taken, they were treated with suspicion. Many hid their past. Korean women, who had been held in brothels by the Japanese army, often faced rejection upon their return home. They were called corrupted. This exacerbated their trauma. The international consequences were serious. Under pressure from human rights activists in the 1990s, Japan was forced to acknowledge the existence of the comfort women system. Germany paid compensation to the victims of camp brothels, but for many women, it was too late. They died in poverty and obscurity. The medical consequences were described in detail in post-war medical papers. A German gynecologist who worked in a refugee camp wrote, "1 in 3 women has scars on their labia. Every second woman has damage to her vagina. Many have inflammation of the uterus and infertility. Damage to the clitoris is common. was cited in the World Health Organization report as evidence of the scale of the crimes. Thousands of deaths occurred after liberation. The most common causes were urinary tract infections, chronic inflammation, and sepsis. Doctors noted that even attempts at surgery were futile. The tissue was so damaged that it was impossible to repair the vagina or uterus. The medical effect was also devastating. In Asian countries, the memory of comfort women became a symbol of colonial violence. In Europe, the Wehrmacht's camp brothels became one of the proofs of the inhumanity of the Nazi system. People who knew the details were shocked. Newspapers wrote, "The female body became the property of the enemy. The vagina, clitoris, and uterus have become a battlefield." The deaths of thousands of women caused chaos in families where daughters, sisters, and wives had disappeared. The authorities could not explain to the people why the bodies were returned mutilated or not returned at all. This led to riots and protests. In Korea, China, and the Philippines, mass movements of women began, demanding recognition and remembrance. Archival documents still preserve these horrific lines. In a 1946 report by a French officer, he read, "We found 3 women in the basement, all of them emaciated. 6 had their vaginas sewn shut. 3 had their clitorises removed. 2 died within a day. The rest cannot walk. We wrote down their names, but they can barely speak." Thus, the 20th century showed the extreme degree of institutionalized abuse of the female body. From antiquity to World War II, the vagina, clitoris, perineum, and labia were subjects of control and mutilation. However, it was the horror of these practices that led international law to recognize sexual slavery and medical mutilation of women.